Hi, my name is Jarrad. I'm here to talk about Status, a mobile light client that connects directly to the Ethereum network and strives to be something like MIST for mobile. Show of hands, who's actually heard of Status? Oh, wow. Great. Fantastic. What you might not know is Status is also more than just a MIST for mobile. We're actually trying to be a strategy towards mass adoption. And today I'll just talk about what to expect from us this year. But before I do, who are we? We're a team of 8. We're spread out across the world, mostly Eurocentric. Carl, my co-founder, and I have actually been in business for about 5 years. We had a background in software distribution. In our previous business, using our own capital, we grew our distribution network to over 20 million users in 3 years. And the profits of that we used to fund and sustain Status' development since then. Why do I mention that? Well, because we've actually seen firsthand how your data is bought and sold and how your digital life can actually tell an actor pretty much anything they want to know about you. And that's deeply concerning for us, which is why Ethereum and its related technologies such as Swarm and Whisper are so incredibly transformational. I mean, that's all very good for like you and I. We're the people who get it. But what about everybody else? You know, the people you see on the street, on the subway, and at restaurants. How can we reach them? See, we initially started out with that MIST for mobile idea, a DAP browser that would connect directly to Ethereum network and fit in your pocket. But there's a problem with that. The only people who would actually use that, at least to start off with, are people who already know about it. We'd be essentially preaching to the converted. So our mind moved towards how can we bring Ethereum to a greater audience? What would user acquisition look like at scale? And how Ethereum can actually be part of our daily experience. We've thought a lot about the problem of mass adoption for cryptocurrencies, and this is what we're currently thinking. So first up, where is everyone? Well, as of 2014, mobile internet usage has surpassed desktop, and more time is actually spent on smartphones than on desktop, and of course this continues to increase. In fact, in emerging markets, people typically skip desktops entirely in favor of their smartphones. Smartphones are literally the new personal computer, and to make Ethereum accessible, we have to have a client on this. So it seems pretty obvious that if we want to attract the most people, that we do need to be on mobile. But then the question is, how are people actually using their mobile phones? Well, it turns out, in terms of monthly active users, instant messages and social networks have 3 times the amount of users than browsers. A third of all that time that you actually spend on a smartphone is within an instant messenger. And even though this data is from the Chinese market, the pattern is similar in the West. What this means is that the users tend to stick better to instant messengers, and they use these applications almost daily, and they will continue to do so for months on end. If we want to maximize the surface area for making an Ethereum client accessible to people, this is probably our best shot. So what if we can provide a compelling user experience, a familiar user interface that requires little to no knowledge of crypto or blockchains, an encrypted peer-to-peer messenger that protects your communication? What if it's entirely free and we can use existing users to educate the market with full access to dApps, to chatbots, and gently expose people to the wonderful world of decentralized applications and conversational crypto commerce? What if you as a DAP developer have just finished your new DAP and you can immediately get all the users you can handle from day one with little effort on your side? That's what we're really about. So where are we? Well, we had an alpha release at the beginning of the year for Android and iOS. At the time, we were largely just testing the Wisp protocol's viability. We had over 2,000 alpha testers on the first day. I personally spoke with 70 people through Status, and the result of this is we've discovered 50 new bugs. Since then, we've been speaking with DAP developers, finding those who are on the Ropsten testnet, adding them as default context for users to try. We're striving to be fully compatible with MIST and MetaMask, and that means for DAP developers, you can write once and run everywhere. And contact me if you're on the testnet. I would love to add you. So, where are we going? Well, we set out a roadmap that extends well into 2018. I want to show you what you can expect from us this year. We'll also be trying to commit to a fortnightly release cycle, and we're looking to have security audits and move to mainnet around Q3 of this year. So one of the interesting challenges is how can we provide the same user experience that users already expect when we have to accomplish this in a peer-to-peer fashion. With Status, we want to establish a gradient between convenience versus privacy, putting the user in control. We want to make the technical details always accessible, but kind of out of the way for the average user. One of the most noticeable user experience issues is the lack of notifications, and currently requires both parties to be online to reliably send and receive messages. Now, with the advent of Whisper inboxing, we can allow users to optionally store Whisper payloads offline on some other node in the network, and we're also extending this ability to provide push notifications. Status can optionally delegate a node to be a Whisper inbox, and then it will tell its clients that it's interested in talking to what that node is. And then if it's capable of firing push notifications, they can opt for that as well. Currently, we're using Firebase for push notifications on iOS and Android. Hopefully, in the future, we can remove this entirely and leave an open connection to the node that's actually storing the messages. I'm a little doubtful that's going to work on iOS because Apple. Another expectation from users is going to be the ability to send audio and image messages. The problem for us is the amount of data for this is just too large to send over Whisper. To remedy this, we're actually going to bring Swarm to Status. Message contact will be encrypted with the receiver's public key and uploaded to Swarm. We're actually talking about full Swarm support here, directly on the device. So this also enables dApps hosted on the Swarm network, as you can see with bchat over there. I mean, hopefully you'll see this in the next 2 to 3 sprints. Currently users in Status are referenced by their public key. We've now registered status im.f on the wonderful Ethereum name service, and we'll be using this system to register and resolve usernames to a public key, identity, or DAP URL. At the end of Q1, we intend to open Status up to DAP developers, exposing our chat API, which will allow you to create chatbots, custom keyboards, or of course run normal web-based dApps. We want to make developing for Status as easy as possible, and soon you'll be able to simply plug in your phone, get immediate access to a Geth console, and watch real-time updates on your code hot-loaded onto the Status. We also intend to bolster the Whisper encrypted messaging. We want to introduce forward secrecy. We also want to do physical sharing of pre-shared keys via QR codes. And we also want to do messages that burn after reading. We also have plans to provide no-knowledge contact sharing, which you can read more details about in the wiki. In our next release, we're also providing public group chats. Unlike the encrypted group chats, these are more for permissionless coordination, and they behave like a public channel. The Lite client has actually been incredibly useful for running Ethereum and resource-restricted devices. When we first started, we were crazy. We were syncing the full blockchain. Anyway, it does require syncing the entire blockchain headers, and it only takes a few minutes, and you can still operate Status without it being fully in sync. However, we think we can do a little bit better from a user experience perspective. We can set a trusted canonical hash tree, which we plan to update with every release. I mean, what this means for the end user is that syncing will use less bandwidth and will take under a minute to synchronize. In an ideal world, the CHT will actually be dynamic and done in a trustless manner, but this is still under research. As our base foundation starts to feel more stable, we can start working on more exciting applications of Status. We want to create a handful of dApps which we believe are critical for bridging the gap for onboarding users into Status. I mean, the most obvious one is wallets. We'll be taking inspiration of the best user experiences we can find in the mobile banking world. And in addition to this, of course, we're going to provide full ERC20 compatibility, shapeshift integration, multi-sig wallets, budgeting features, expenses, incomes, and market data, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, as we start to expose users to Ethereum, one of the inevitable questions we're going to get is, how do I buy crypto tokens? And of course, you can use an exchange or even Coinbase, and we do intend to integrate with those. But getting tokens in the physical world should be as easy as finding an ATM. And this is where the global teller network will come in. Now, for anyone who's used it, you'll notice we have a feature called Discover, and it allows you to propagate a public status, giving you the ability to find DApps or advertise goods and services through your social network. We're actually going to be iterating this idea to make it look more like a layer-based maps display, and opening those layers up to third-party distributed applications. One of the first layers is going to be the global teller network, and it'll allow users to exchange fiat or physical assets for crypto tokens. It'll also consist of a generalized escrow smart contract and an intermediation system that'll operate entirely within the chat context. We'll also be introducing a community-curated DAP directory and sticker market. The DAP directory was actually one of our most requested features. I'm a little hesitant because this interface does raise a number of problems which you can see in the Google Play and App Store. It does act like a centralized choke, favoring whatever DAP is on the front page. We're still trying to think about how to best solve these problems.